What's up, Stockbridge? First to anyone watching, this is Teens Talk Scripture, our weekly Bible study series, and today we're going to talk about how to embrace conflict. The past 2 weeks we've talked about making a better community, embracing differences, embracing humility, and today I'm going to give you some advice on how to deal with conflict. The message I'm going to give, I learned this message myself a couple of years ago. It was life-changing, and if you haven't heard this message, I really hope you pay attention, and I really hope you live by these words. Before I even get into the Bible verse, I'll be honest with you, it's hard dealing with conflict. Are you putting up with pain from another person that you should not deal with? I'm going to start with the Bible verse, and then I'm going to give you the 3 steps to properly deal with conflict based off the words of Jesus Christ. I'm reading Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 20 from the NLT version. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 others with you and go back again, so that everything you say may be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. If the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church. Then if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. I also tell you this, if 2 of you agree here on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father in heaven will do it for you. For where 2 or 3 gather together as my followers, I am there among them. So now we've got the verse out the way. Here are the 3 steps to take to deal with conflict. Step number 1, deal with conflict head on. Verse 15, go privately and point out the offense. It's uncomfortable dealing with conflict, and you can be honest with yourself and prioritize which conflicts you need to deal with head on. If it's something petty that you can forgive and forget about it, forgive and forget about it, keep moving. But if it's something that really hurts your heart, don't gossip, don't talk behind the person's back. Sometimes when we're hurting, we might not need to be right, but we just want to be heard. I've heard the old saying, there's always 3 sides to the story, my side, your side, and the truth. We can deal with a conflict and say we're right all day long, and the other person can say they're right all day long. And it might be hard to see eye to eye with every single detail, but sometimes you just need to be heard. In verse 15, if the other person listens and confesses it, you have won the person back. You can interpret this as, hey, your side won, they understood it, and boom, you've won. Success, victory, you won the court case. Or you could have won the person back with the sense that when you thought you lost a friend, you lost an acquaintance, you won them back in your circle. They've heard you. You somehow feel they're sympathetic to your case. You've got them back in your life. Step 2 in dealing with conflict, seek counsel. In verse 16, it says if the person doesn't listen to you, get 2 or 3 people to be witnesses. And in verse 17, if that doesn't work, you take it to the church. I want you to be mindful of the chain of command. First, you deal with that person individually. So your issues, your problems, don't make it public. Step 2, you only see 2 or 3 people. You're not putting it on a blog and blasting and tweeting it to the world when you could have dealt with that problem one-on-one. Seek counsel, seek the wisdom of someone you trust, seek mediation, seek a neutral third party, talk to your pastor, talk to someone that both of you can trust and you can respect their opinions and views on the matter. And then after you go to that mediation party, if that doesn't work, it says go to the church. Now be mindful, our concept of church did not exist when Jesus was preaching this. So when they say go to the church, they're really talking about religious leaders. Go to the wise people, go to leaders, even your church leaders. Ask for counsel. So if you don't get anything else from step number 2, if you have an issue with someone, if you have a conflict with the way you've been dealt with, putting it on Facebook or Instagram or some blog posts, it might make you feel well, but it's not going to help you resolve your conflict. To add on to step 2, verses 18 through 20 is normally misquoted. The sentiment is righteous, but we want to make sure we get the context. A lot of people, when they pray, they say, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, the Lord is present. And that is true. God is always amongst us. But in this context, it's talking about specifically conflict. If you're seeking counsel with a righteous heart, God approves. Whatever God approves on earth is approved in heaven. Now, step number 3 with dealing with conflict. This is a doozy. When you hear this part, it could be interpreted one way, but I want to reel it back in and make sure you see the whole perspective of it. So we've done step 1. When you deal with conflict, first deal with it head on. Don't avoid it. Step number 2, when you deal with it head on, if that's not successful, seek counsel. Step number 3, if counsel does not work, establish healthy boundaries with the heart of Jesus Christ. I repeat, establish healthy boundaries with the heart of Jesus Christ. The end of verse 17, if the person does not accept the church's decision, treat that person like a pagan or a tax collector. There are other interpretations that say Gentile or tax collector. So a Gentile would be the non-Jewish people. So if God's original chosen people were the Jews, the Gentiles were not the Jews. The Jewish people in this time did not associate with Gentiles nor tax collectors. They did not want to dine with them. They did not want to hang out with them, or they will be considered unclean. Now, if you only read that Bible verse out of context, you could interpret it as, I went to the person one-on-one, I got help from someone, that person didn't listen to me. Oh, treat them like a Gentile or tax collector. That means wash your hands totally clean of that. Bet Jesus is telling me that if they won't listen to me, cut them off. I say yes and no. And Jesus says treat them like a pagan or Gentile and tax collector. I'm taking this as establish a healthy boundary with the heart of Jesus Christ. If the person won't listen to you, you understand that, okay, we're going to disagree. We are brothers and sisters, but as of this moment, we're not truly connected mentally, spiritually. You're so upset with them, you can almost draw a line between where they stand in life and where you stand in life. So after you spoke with the person, after you try to receive help and they don't listen to you, it's okay to feel like maybe we shouldn't be talking so often. It's okay to, for time to time, take a break. But think about the way Jesus treated the pagans and the tax collectors. While the Jews did not want to associate themselves with the pagans and tax collectors, or they would be considered unclean, Jesus Christ often dined with them. Jesus Christ blessed them. Jesus Christ always invited them to the table to receive God's kingdom. I spoke about 2 weeks ago, Matthew was a tax collector. A tax collector became one of Jesus' disciples. So this might be the hardest pill to swallow, but hear me out. When you have conflict with someone and they don't ever see eye to eye with you, love them. It's okay to love from a distance. And then when your heart is healed, it's okay to once again invite them to God's table. The same way Jesus constantly invites you to God's table. So to recap, it's okay to embrace conflict. Jesus invites it. When you have conflict, don't speak behind the person's back. Step 1, deal with it head on. Gossiping is wrong. Blasting it to the public is not orderly. If you deal with that person one-on-one and they don't listen, seek wise counsel. And if that does not work, it's okay to establish a healthy boundary. But do remember, Jesus invited the pagans and the tax collectors to the table, and Jesus still expects you to do the same. Pray you take these words to heart. I pray that you read all of Matthew chapter 18. We're going to talk more about forgiveness next week, but in the meantime, in between time, I pray that your conflict always be healthy. You are worthy.